Oh yes. Oh no! Ladies and gentlemen, we have an NC Miata comparison. One going for about $23,000. This was $13K bought new plus $10K in mods. I think nowadays you'd probably have to pay around $15 to get a clean example like this. So let's say $25K. This one, well, it's actually a junker. The owner calls it a pile. It's actually also tuned by Eric, the owner. We've had many of his cars reviewed on the channel, and he always has such pristine, immaculate, super clean cars. As you can see here, perfect fitment, perfect everything. Just the details are on point. But he helped set this car up as well. And he was saying to do this today, you'd probably spend about $6-7K for the actual NC1 Miata, and then another 4 or 5K mods. So it's about 12 to 13K total. So essentially half the price, 12K versus 25K roughly. Although this is a 2006 and this is a 2010, this is NC2, this is NC1. The engine on this thing blew, so it has an NC2 motor. We have Meister R coilovers, roll bar, sway bars, upgraded radiator, Goodwin dual exhaust, and endless MX72 Plus brakes. And as you can see, original factory seats. This car has seen better days, but the owner enduringly calls this his shit box because it's just about having fun, man. Got this Coke bottle chode shifter. Can I say that on YouTube? I don't know, I just did. 174,000 miles on the clock. The red line here shows a little bit over 65, maybe 6,700. But remember, we have the NC2 motor, so it's going to rev out closer to 7. Gotta make sure I don't hit that car, so we're going to use the e-brake trick. That's how you guys do it. If you want to know how to drive stick, we have a whole playlist, A to Z, beginner to advanced. And that window is stuck down, unfortunately. For a budget build, this thing is already so much fun. These coilovers, you can tell, aren't top tier stuff, but they're actually pretty good for the price point. You're getting that communication, that body control, occasionally a bit harsher over the larger bumps, but still very good for the price. We've got hydraulic steering in the NC. And with this aftermarket wheel, and with the other mods they've done with the bushings and such, they redid all the bushings actually. It's actually feeling pretty good. Now, the NC Miatas, they have right off center when you first turn in, you get this little bit of instability. And that's because the NC is the biggest of the Miatas. And they actually dialed in toe out and toe in at the rear. Toe out at initial corner entry. It's their kinematic dynamic toe. So it toes out a little bit, gives you a more immediate rotation and response. But then mid-corner with compression, it then toes in again to give you more stability. But the issue there is, when you first turn in, it's fun that it feels more lively and it wants to play, but it adds a little bit of instability. But what I love about the NC, first of all, the size is better for larger people like me. I'm 6'1", 180 pounds. My head, there's probably like less than an inch between my head and the soft top. We're on stock seats, so we're sitting a bit higher than ideal. When you rev this thing out, it has so much more character than some other Miatas, namely the ND. It's got that fizzy little engine, and I want that in my light convertible sports car. Sure, this is the heaviest generation by Miata standards, but Miata standards are so light to begin with. This car still weighs 2,500 pounds, actually a little bit less because it's the soft top, not the power retractable hardtop like the other one. With that lightweight, double wishbone front suspension, multi-link in the rear. You can drop the top if you want. We're not doing that because of audio reasons. Oh, squirrel, come on, man. Why are you suicidal? Now, just like a lot of other Miatas as well, the initial throttle response, you have to blip harder to rev match perfectly, which seems to be a Mazda philosophy thing because it's consistent across other vehicles too, even their current Mazda 3 manual front-wheel drive. Brakes have good bite. Pretty firm. Love that modulation. That high resolution. If you told me that I could have this driving experience for $12,000, I'd say hell yes. I'd probably fix some of the shitbox components like the cracked windshield and the seats with the, you know, the tears and such. But you're getting an incredible driving experience for $12,000 to $13,000. Is it pretty? No. It's beat up. It's seen better days. I mean, look at the paint peeling on the hood. You can even see it from here. And also this Coke can shift knob is just comical.
Part of that's also going to be your coilovers. We don't have top shelf stuff here. It's still pretty good though. But man, at the price point, this thing is set up so well. Eric really knows what he's doing. Speaking of which, I need to ask him to help me set up my ND Miata. Setup is everything. You drive 3-4 different NC Miatas, they're all going to drive quite differently depending on not only the model year, but more importantly the mods, the setup. And while this is an NC1, again it has the NC2 engine, which is the big change, forged internals and such, which I think they supposedly did for NVH reasons, but of course the gearheads there, those that like pushing their cars and taking it to the track, it had another purpose for them. Suspension changes, I'm not sure what the differences were NC1 to NC2. I know they were substantial, but I'm not sure how relevant they are here with the aftermarket suspension work. And with that as the baseline, let's see how she compares to the NC2.
And now it's time for the 2010 Mazda Miata NC2 power retractable hardtop. Because that NC1 has an NC2 engine swap, they're both powered by the same inline-4, naturally aspirated 2-liter, making 167 horsepower, 140 pound-feet of torque. This one with the power retractable hardtop is right around 2,500 pounds. Now the important thing to note with the NC2 engine internals is that you had forged rods, crankshaft, upgraded valves, engine oil cooler as well compared to the NC1. Again, supposedly for NVH, but just a convenient excuse, I'd say. For those who are wondering, NC2 versus NC3, that was mostly just cosmetic. Maybe some slight suspension tuning differences, but the hardware itself were largely the same, engine unchanged. Let's just take a moment to appreciate how clean this thing is. Eric's cars are always immaculate. He's actually going to be helping me set up my ND because he just has impeccable taste. Like from the fitment to the stance, such money. Full mod list down in the description as always. What you need to know, we have Xida race spec coilovers, 11K front and 7K rear. Progress front sway bar, Mazdaspeed replica underbody braces with also a Goodwin strut tower brace. For the engine, we have an induction box, Goodwin header, racing beat mid-pipe, Goodwin race single with helmholtz exhaust, stage 2 cams, Koyo Radiator, Fab 9 tune, Cusco RS 1.5-way LSD, and we got the splitter, the side skirts, the spoiler, and pole position for Caros. I mean, look how pristine this interior is, immaculate. I think this tack is also aftermarket, unless I'm mistaken, but it looks OEM. Looks so clean. Even this with the CarPlay, really well done. We have a proper shift knob here. This thing looks great and feels great. Now again, this is gonna be around twice the price. Eric himself put in about $23,000 for the vehicle plus mods, 13K for the vehicle, 10K for mods. But I think if you want to get a clean example PRHT today, it's going to be a few more thousand more than 13. Oh yes. Oh no! God, that was close. Squirrel. Jesus. You can tell the coilovers here are definitely a couple steps above. Here the fuel cutoff is 7,500 and the other one it was around 7,000 or 71. Same engine, so maybe like the ECU in that is still not adjusted for the NC2 engine, I don't know. But overall the first vibes I get from this car versus the other is more smooth and ease. It's a much more polished, it's still sporty, it's still communicative, but it's a much more polished driving experience. Not as raw and visceral. I'm giving it the beans right now. We're kind of staying the same speed. You gotta remember the NC is low on power. But if you're going uphill, of course it's going to feel that way. Such a great manual transmission. It feels so much more expensive than it is. So direct and notchy. This one having a proper shift knob on it, not that Coke can. A lot more enjoyable to use. Even the engine here is smoother than in that other example. And the sound, he's taking it up another level. You know, my ND I think sounds a little bit dull at times with stock. I mean, the car's entirely stock exhaust, stock everything. But here, all the mods he's done, it really wakes this thing up and it comes alive. It sounds fantastic. You get that build, that crescendo, that fizziness as you rev this thing out that the new NDs don't have. And that's one of the things I love about the NCs. Liking the brakes here as well. The whole car is so congruent, and that's what's important in a setup, I think. At least if you want a car to feel natural when you first hop in, without much of a learning curve, you want all the pieces to play together well. That means the inputs need to feel dialed in, the way the car actually handles dynamically needs to be dialed in, and you still have that toe-out, toe-in nature here, so that initial turn-in, you still get a little bit of that
that vague uncertainty, but it's far less than in that example, because this does have a more sophisticated suspension setup. But man, these cars are so much fun. Steering here also, I'm guessing because fresher example, and possibly also just due to the overall setup, have a little bit sharper steering here, a little bit more precise feedback. Again, these both have hydraulic racks. But 23 to 25K versus 12 to 13K, is it worth double the money? I mean, if you're on a budget, that is a lot of driving experience. And what you're paying for here is really better suspension and everything else just being a little bit tighter and more polished, right? The seats, the interior here is immaculate. The exterior, everything is so clean. If you have the budget, I would personally love to get something like this and, you know, get everything just dialed in perfectly so that, yeah, when you park the car, you have to look back at it and just appreciate how good it looks. And when you're driving it, you don't feel like you're in a shitbox.
The engine mods here, namely the Stage 2 cams with the tune, give it that increased smoothness and also that crescendo that we love, and a little bit more top end.
You feel like it's a very dialed in, very purposeful driving experience, whereas that is more like, let me have this toy and rag on it and have a great time and laugh a lot. And this has a lot of that energy, but rather than wearing a tank top, it's wearing a button down or a suit. Such a nice shifter. Some minor critiques for my body type. I'm a little bit too far from the wheel. I'm a little bit tilted back, which I appreciate. I don't like being too upright in a bucket seat, but now my arms are really stretched out, but it's probably fine for Eric, just different builds. You know, some people have longer legs or longer arms. But my friends, let me know what you think of this NC comparison. Which one would you pick? Let me know with a comment down below. And if you have your car that you want reviewed on Jabal and Cars, visit us on jabalandcars.com. Fill out the form on the homepage. Much love, my friends, and I'll see you all in that next one.